What's up, guys? Welcome into Good Morning Lambeau. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. You can find me on Twitter at Packers_access. You can email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. Text us 865-658-5824. I'm joined alongside Tim live in Green Bay. Tim, how you doing this morning, pal?
Good morning, man. Doing good. Happy to be here.
The chat's already lit up, man. Everybody's saying good morning in here. Beautiful day. I'm seeing that several times in the chat. Cody comes in the chat and says, woke up to hearing Robins out the window. Can't forget the Black Rifle Coffee. Dude, Black Rifle Coffee, we've been hitting some deals here lately on the iced in the cans. Oh, it's so good, dude. Talking about grabbing one on the go, a little tall boy for the road there. Love Black Rifle Coffee. Love what they represent for sure, man.
Hear that sound? You can hear this sound in the morning too.
That's exactly right, man. I'm on my second cup, so this is about the fifth cup of espresso here. So we double down on each cup and try to get the juices going here, man. It's getting older. It's rough, Tim. It's rough out here. Let's see here. Let's do this. Let's start the show off by giving a quick shout out to our friends over at Ticket King. Ticket King is the official ticket provider of Packers Total Access Live and Good Morning Lambeau. Wisconsin-based since 1992. They specialize in Packers tickets. Wisconsin's largest ticket source as well. They've got offices next to Lambeau Field and in Milwaukee too. If you guys want to go down there and give them a visit, get ready for the upcoming season, just ask them, hey, what's the process like as far as getting tickets for the upcoming season? You can also click on the link in the description of this video that will send you to their website, www.theticketking.com, so you can kind of get familiar with that, register as a customer for free. I'm telling you, if you go to a lot of Packer games, or maybe you haven't been in a few years, you're looking to grab tickets and go to one this year, that's the place to get your tickets. They're going to be able to save you some money, save you some time as well. And again, that is Ticket King, based out of Green Bay and Milwaukee. Make sure you go give them a follow on Twitter too. Check them out on the socials, all that good stuff. We appreciate them sponsoring the show. Tim, where we left off last night, we were kind of going across the league and looking at some of the highest graded contracts from a sense of who got the most bang for their buck as far as these teams and specific players. And it really, what I was looking to do is kind of, I don't want to say set the floor for free agents, but just get kind of an idea which teams are hitting on those late round guys that are leading to, a really cost-effective, player on their roster. Zach Tom's the one that came to mind for us. Jordan Love was fourth amongst quarterbacks. There were several players that really, really came in nicely there in the ranking for sure. Even Rashawn Gary with that huge cap hit now with the new contract was still, I think, 17th among edge defenders. So you're getting the value there even with only 50% of the snaps. That shows you what kind of production he had as far as pressures and helping stop the run, things like that. So what I thought we would do this morning is let's look at our roster now specifically. Let's look at the PFF grades from last year and say, okay, where are the holes? There's going to be some surprises here, gang. You're going to see some guys and go, man, I thought he played better than that. And you may disagree with PFF. That's totally cool. I do sometimes too. It's just another source we have for evaluation. And when you do disagree with it, if you do disagree with it in the chat, do me a favor and say, hey, no, actually, he did this, this, and this well, and back it up with numbers. Don't just say, I think he played well, right? Let's try to all educate each other this morning. But looking at the PFF grades on the surface, Tim, this was kind of this is why you do it, man. You zoom out, right? And you go, okay, where are the holes? Who struggled, right? And you're going to notice some of them, like Elton Jenkins, obviously coming off an ACL, probably had something to do with that, right? All those little things come into play. But let's dive right into it. Do you got any comments going in? Anything you want to mention, hit on before we start?
No, let's start the deep dive, man. Let's do it.
All right, here we go. I'm going to share the screen here. We'll go full screen. Just make sure you can see that, Tim. You see it all right, bud?
Yep.
All right, here we go, man. So this is, like I said, this is the PFF grades, okay, for the Packers roster. And I'm zoomed in enough there, hopefully, that you guys can read it okay. But we're just going to start at the top of the list. First of all, where my cursor is right now, that is your overall offensive grade, okay? I don't worry about specific grades. When someone says, yeah, but his pass blocking grade was great, okay, I got you. But now you're if and. Exactly. Like you can't cherry pick to try to prove a point. Like you got an overall grade. When you start getting into the whole, yeah, but he pass blocks good, then you're going to get into, okay, why is the run game struggling so bad? Hark, I wonder. Aaron Jones graded out of 80.9, but our running game sucked most of the year. Why is that? Because the run blocking was bad. Why is the run blocking bad? Keep that in mind when people go, yeah, but Josh Myers is a good pass blocker, or so-and-so's a good pass blocker. The run blocking matters. And the fact that the running game struggled, even though Aaron Jones graded out so high, and you could see Aaron Jones dancing and making guys miss and those explosive plays, to me, it just backs up the data here at PFF. But let's go right down the line. Top of the list, Jordan Love, 83.6, right? Then you got Bo Melton, 83.4. And I'm pretty sure this is the snap count right here. So 178 snaps, guys. That's not a small sample size there. That's a pretty good chunk. 83.4. That's kind of promising. I'm going to list on my offensive side evaluation here 4 receivers, just so we can kind of, for those people that go, I'm still not sold on Bo. Okay, we'll just set him to the side and look at the others too here in a second. But let's go down the line here. Aaron Jones, 80.9. Emmanuel Wilson, 80.0. Zach Tom, 79.7. David Bakhtiari, 78.3. Dontavian Wicks, 77.8. A.J. Dillon, 75.7. Romeo Dobbs, 73.6. Jaden Reed, 73.3. Christian Watson, 68.2. Christian Watson is, some folks, I know he was hurt. They like to pretend like he was just absolute cheeks. That was not the case. When he was on, he was on. Yep. And typically when he was off, he was battling some injuries, right? Hopefully that new strength and conditioning coach hire will get the hammies straightened out and all that good stuff. But Luke Musgrave, 68.1, such a solid performance for a rookie, Tim. I mean, you love to see it. We always talk about if you can crack the 60 grade as a rookie, it's usually a pretty good indicator that you're going to be a good tight end. You'll notice here to the left, 22nd of 72. So he is more than graded out as a starting tight end, right? No doubt about it. Rasheed Walker, 66.3. This will probably surprise some people. You've got folks that are convinced that Rasheed Walker is just this absolute stud at offensive line. And I think he played well for a 7th-round pick, don't get me wrong, especially stepping in the shadow of someone like David Bakhtiari, who's a borderline Hall of Famer. But, guys, the reality is he graded out 44th amongst tackles, right? A 66.3. Again, that meets my minimum qualification in this exercise. What we're doing is we're setting the cutoff at 65. Anything below 65, we're going to consider it, hey, we probably need to improve that position. And we'll mention the caveats of injuries and things like that as well. But right here, right off the bat, Elton Jenkins, 63.8, right? Now, that's underneath the 65 threshold we're talking about, right? The qualification. But
65%.
65%. That's what I didn't even think about that. That's absolutely
got to
awesome.
Bring it back.
Got to bring it full circle. So Elton doesn't meet that qualification, but I think we would all agree we're not looking to get rid of Elton Jenkins. It's a guy that's battled injury, right? And you're probably going to get the best version of Elton Jenkins than you've seen in a long time. That and his blown block percentage was really, really nice stat too. So just keep that in mind. He technically makes the list here, left guard being upgradable, but we know we're not getting rid of Elton Jenkins. We want to mention that. Samori Toure, 60.6. Ben Sims, 60.5. Patrick Taylor, 60.4. Tucker Kraft, 60.4. That's 34th amongst tight ends. Not bad. That basically says he's the second best 12 personnel tight end. That's what that says in the whole league. So he's flirting with being starting caliber, but he doesn't meet that 75. We're focused on the starting lineup in this exercise, okay? Malik Heath, 60.1. Yosh Nijman, 57.4. That's one that I'm not completely I know some people are, we got to bring Yosh back. We got to bring Yosh back. I'm cool with letting him walk. And you know what? If he doesn't get an offer, you want to bring him back for a veteran minimum, I'm okay with it. Sean Clifford, 56.8, obviously a backup quarterback. John Runyon was our starting right guard last year, guys, 56.5. Need to improve that, right? I think we would all agree. Josh Myers, this is the guy that people were bragging on with his pass blocking, although it looks like his pass blocking dipped tremendously last year. He finished out with a 54.7. 54.7 is your starting center. You guys know that's a position of tier 2 importance for me. The only position of tier 2 importance on the offensive side of the ball. So 54.7, man. And we're going into, I think this is this the last year? I think this is the last year of his contract. If it's not, it's the next to last year. Everybody's replaceable, man. Like, if you can upgrade and you can add someone like a Creed Humphrey in through the draft to start at center, do you know what that's going to do for your run blocking? Do you know what that's going to open up the playbook even more for Matt LaFleur, because Josh Myers has struggled with run blocking, right? Josiah DeGuara, 51.7. Obviously, he probably won't be on the roster unless he comes back on a minimum camp invite type thing. Sean Ryan, this is now your starting right guard, okay? Runyon is officially a free agent. By his reaction, I'm assuming th're not going to bring him back. So you go, okay, well, let's just plug and play Sean Ryan. People were screaming for Sean Ryan last year. He actually underperformed John Runyon, 49.3. Henry Pearson, 47.7, and then Royce Newman, the other guy that's a potential there at guard, 40.9. So recap the offense side of the ball real quick. What you essentially come up with is you need to upgrade left guard, center, and right guard. Now, we obviously talk about Elton Jenkins. I'm not suggesting you should go get Elton Jenkins' replacement, but what it tells me is you're going to need backups anyway. You need to take that serious. You need to have someone in case Elton does have another injury pop up, someone who could fill that void. That's why it's important to focus on interior offensive line in this draft. And again, Rasheed Walker, 66.3. He beats that 65 threshold, right? But the problem with that is left tackle being a tier 1 position of importance. I would not be surprised if you've got the right candidate that falls. Graham Barton is getting mocked to the Packers a lot right now. I think Zerline mocked him last night to the Packers in his 2.0 mock draft. That's a guy, Graham Barton. Here's a guy that they said can play every position on the offensive line. All right. So that's someone who can fill in any spot in a pinch, and you can plug and play him immediately at right guard. You could even have him compete at left tackle if Bach is gone. If Bach comes back, now you got a competition at right guard with a Graham Barton or someone similar, right? And I think that could be huge for the Packers offense. So essentially what we got is starting center, technically starting left guard, but we're going to cross it off because it's Elton Jenkins, and we think that he's going to return to old form this year, and then starting right guard. So really what you're looking at, Tim, when it comes to the draft and free agency, we need a couple interior offensive linemen. And I would not be opposed to going out and say, hey, look, we need to find us a freaking center. What do you think, man?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, guard position is going to be something that they're going to prioritize maybe a little more than center, but I all for competition. I don't think there's anything wrong with bringing in a center, to compete with snap the freaking ball, Josh, and see how things work out. But definitely interior O-line, I would put a slight priority over tackle. And that's not to say that tackle's not important, because it clearly is. But I'd like to see us get stronger on the interior.
Absolutely. So let's scroll down and look at the defensive side of the ball. Again, what we established there for your starting lineup, you could use a new center and a new right guard. Outside of that, we feel good, right? If I were to draw out the starting lineup, this is what you got. Jordan Love, 83.6. Aaron Jones, 80.9. Rasheed Walker, 66.3. Elton Jenkins, 63.8. And this is from left to right here. Josh Myers, 54.7. Sean Ryan, 49.3. Those are the two eyesores, right? Zach Tom at right tackle, stud, 79.7. Luke Musgrave, 68.1. He meets the threshold. He's probably on the uptick. I think Tucker Kraft is as well. You guys know, part of me believes Tucker Kraft might be the better overall tight end at the end of the day. We'll see how that shakes out. Wide receiver, I've got 4 wide receivers listed as starting potential. Bo Melton, 83.4. Dontavian Wicks, 77.8. Jaden Reed, 73.3. And Romeo Dobbs, 73.6.
This receiving is tough.
This is why I got the hate mail the other night when Jake Shavink took a wide receiver on the live mock draft. So the wide receiver room just looks really, really nice. Now, listen, if the right player falls, even in the first round, and they got a guy that, hey, this was our highest graded wide receiver in the draft, and he fell to us, take him, right? It's all about taking the best player. But let's move on to the defensive side of the ball now. If you're a Rashawn Gary hater, turn the pot off because he's still your highest graded defensive player. 79.0 was his grade. Okay. Jair Alexander, 75.9. Darnell Savage, 75.5. We know Savage is testing free agency. Tim, he peaked at the perfect moment for himself, man. He's going to get himself paid, I believe. And the fact that he's a former first rounder, got all those first round traits as far as the athleticism goes, the speed. Someone is going to look back in their draft evals and go, yeah, let's go throw some money at this kid. Preston Smith, 70.5. Kenny obviously just redone his contract. He's coming back. Kenny Clark, 70.4. You want to see that number way higher for the money Kenny's getting paid, but at the same time, he's your 5th highest graded defensive player. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? Like some people are, this defense is horrible. Let's get rid of our best players like Rashawn Gary. That made no sense to me. You find the weak spots and you replace the weak spots and keep the things that are strong, even though they may not be performing up to par that for certain fans and the salary cap hit that's involved. Kenny Clark kind of falls in that category for me, but he's still your best interior defensive lineman, right? You don't want to make your team weaker. just because a guy is underperforming. You don't just throw him out and completely scrap it, especially when there's not much money to be saved there at times. Let's see, a Rudy Ford safety going to be a free agent, 69.9. Tim, this is your second highest graded safety. And he couldn't get on the field last year, partly due to injury, but there was something there with the coaches too, where they preferred to start other safeties over Rudy Ford. Maybe that changes this year. I would like to see them bring back Rudy Ford. That's you guys hear this every offseason. You're probably going, of course you do. Your name's Clayton, and you're the president of the Rudy Ford fan club. You say this every year. I don't understand it, Tim. It makes sense for me, man. Like, why is Rudy not on the field more? And I know he's still got quite a few snaps there. It looks like if this is the defensive snap count, I think it is 626 snaps. But it's just like at times they kept as soon as the safety room got healthy, they put Rudy back on the bench, and it just doesn't make any sense to me, man.
Yeah, I don't know. The age maybe, like he's kind of
maybe a progress stopper holding some of the young guys back.
That'd be all I could think about. But he's more of a ball hawk back there. He's not necessarily your downhill run stuffer guy. He's your pick six guy and coverage guy back there. So I see a role for him, regardless of what we do in the draft, especially if Sav is gone. You got to look at bringing someone with some experience back. Because like him and Ant Johnson Jr. I mean, that's a start. Build around that, I guess. But I'd like to see Rudy back, maybe on a 2 or 3 year deal or something.
Yeah, me too. He'll probably get the test free agency a bit, and then like last year, and come back and get him on a deal there. But Carl Brooks coming in here, defensive line 69.8. Guys, he's the second highest graded interior defensive line. This is what I was talking about. Exactly. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I was talking about with Devontae Wyatt, man. Like, I know Devontae Wyatt's a first-round pick, and this goes hand in hand with the whole pass blocking fans, right? Well, Devontae Wyatt can rush the passer. I got you, but he's a liability in other aspects, right? Like that, it's important to be well-rounded. I mean, you see Carl Brooks, he didn't rip anything out of the frame and run defense at a 46.8, but his tackle grade was way better than Devontae Wyatt. I'm sure that's why his 69.8 is significantly higher. So I would like to see in this new 4-3 look, Carl Brooks and Kenny Clark as your interior defensive lineman and rotate in Devontae Wyatt. At least give Carl Brooks a chance to lose that job, right? Him sitting on the bench while Devontae Wyatt misses tackles in the backfield, it's just tough, man. This is a big surprise here too. Most people were, screaming, cut Devondre Campbell, right? Let's try to free up some money, cut Devondre Campbell. If you cut Devondre Campbell, you free up $2.5 million this year, right? And I would love to see them restructure it in a way where it's incentive-based and all that. But Devondre Campbell was your highest graded linebacker according to PFF, 65.1. Is it great? No, absolutely it's not great. But that meets our threshold. And again, are you going to throw the baby out with the bathwater? Are we just going to cut our best linebacker because he's not living up to the contract and make our linebacking room even weaker? The goal of the offseason, identify the weaknesses and try to flip those weaknesses into strengths. You can't do that when you get rid of the best player at that position. The real answer would be you need to replace Quay. Now, I don't like that answer. I love Quay Walker. I'm a big Quay Walker fan. I love the athleticism. I'm holding out hope that it comes together in this new 4-3 look, whether he's playing Sam or Mike. I kind of got Devondre probably as the Mike and Quay as the Sam. We'll see how that plays out. But again, holding on to Devondre Campbell, I would not be surprised if he comes out completely healthy, has a good camp, if he is on the roster, and he ends up being your starting Mike. I also wouldn't be surprised if they did get rid of him and free up that money and say, hey, we want to go younger at linebacker. I kind of see both sides of the argument. I hope he's on the roster. How you feel about Devondre, Tim? Would you like to see him back, or do you think the only way he comes back, maybe a pay cut? What are you thinking there, man?
I'd like to see him back. And obviously there'll have to be some kind of, pay adjustment or whatever. But, Dre's a gamer, and I really our linebackers kind of struggled a little bit last year as a group. Dre being the highest graded at 65.1 is a pretty good indicator of that. But he brings some veteran stability to that position. I think we're going to need at least one of those guys. For Quay and Zay McDuffie to play alongside, and then obviously drafting one or two linebackers isn't a bad idea either. I do think that if they ultimately do move on from Dre, I think, a guy like Bobby Wagner could be a realistic possibility, bringing in veteran leadership there into that position. But I don't know. I'm excited to see what what pans out. But if Dre's not a Packer in 2024, it'll be really interesting to see how Quay Walker steps up in his third year and stepping into veteran, early veteran status in his career. See how he responds to that. I think Quay can play anywhere. I think he can play the mic. I'd prefer him as a Sam or a Will. But time will tell. But I'd love to see Dre come back, even if it's a 1-year deal or something like that. Right. We just go one at a time. We do this again next year, and see what happens. But I think Dre certainly earned my respect as a Packer fan, and I think he's been willing to grit through injury, and we dealt with some frustration last season, and that's over with. It's time to look forward. And I think you could do a lot worse than bringing Devondre Campbell back into the mix for sure.
Yeah, and if he does come back, the good news is if Devondre Campbell continues to decline, next year you can free up even more money with the cap. Next year would be the year to kind of part ways, right? Yep. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, you talk about bringing in someone like Bobby Wagner, his market value is somewhere around $4 million. Totally affordable, especially for someone who graded out in the 80s last year, in the 90s the year before. I know he's getting a little older, but think about the value there. If he comes in, and let's say your starting linebackers in your 4-3 is Devondre Campbell, Quay, and Bobby Wagner. You know how backers get hurt. We've seen Quay get hurt from time to time. We've seen Devondre Campbell get hurt a lot, right? Having that little bit of depth there, because you're only going to be playing 2 of those inside linebackers in your nickel look, right? Which is going to switch from a 2-4-5 to a 4-2-5, which is essentially the same exact thing, but there's going to be 2 linebackers on the field, right? So if you have someone like Bobby Wagner, and you have, whether it's Devondre Campbell or Quay Walker or Isaiah McDuffie competing for that 3rd spot or even that 2nd spot in the nickel, man, what a mentor for someone like Quay. Devondre, I think, is a great mentor too. But what a mentor in Bobby Wagner, who may very well be a Pro Football Hall of Famer, right? And have him be able to kind of show Quay the ropes. I think there's value there too. Going on down the line, you got Robert Rochelle, 64.4. You got Kingsley and Igbare, 62.5. Lucas Van Ness, rookie, 62.3. Had 444 snaps. I believe that's the snap count there. 62.3 as a rookie, Tim. I'm telling you, man, you crack 60 as a rookie, it's usually a sign, hey, you're going to have a good football player here. I am looking for Lucas Van Ness to have a year 2 jump. And, what I remember him doing in Iowa the most is having his hand in the dirt, right? And with that being said, he would play a little more interior defensive line from time to time. Now, he may be flexed out to a 4-eye, in some cases a 5, even though they had a wide 9 on that side as well. But the fact that you're going to be in more of those 4-down lineman sets, most likely with Hafley, you'll still have some of those outside guys stand up from time to time. But I think Lucas Van Ness is going to feel a little more comfortable in this defense too. I told the story last year, listening to Greg Cosell leading up to the season. He said, I'm hearing in Green Bay that they want him to be a stand-up outside linebacker. And he said, that really surprised me. And I remember being so egotistical for about 10 and a half seconds, Tim. I went, yeah, but Greg Cosell, he's probably just, he's probably kind of reading too much into it. I think they'll play him down from time to time too. And then lo and behold, outside linebacker the whole year pretty much. There was times he put his hand in the dirt, but it was few and far between. And I remember thinking, never question Greg Cosell. This dude has been in and out of these locker rooms, in and out of these facilities, built relationships with coach after coach after coach, knows what the hell he's talking about.
Yep. So, I think it was all confirmed after week 1 when he chased down Justin Fields.
Right.
Everyone's like, yep, I think he's athletic enough to play here.
Absolutely. Sure. And now if he's had that experience kind of playing in space and you put him back down with his hand in the dirt, who knows, man? He might really pop this year. That would be TJ Slayton, 62.3. Corey Ballantyne, 60.8. Right. And this, you notice we haven't read Carrington Valentine yet. Many people were convinced that Carrington Valentine is just this stud, man. He held his own. He's a stud. He's a stud. I didn't see it like that. I'm a Kentucky fan. What I seen with Carrington Valentine was someone who, he was 7th round pick, if I remember correctly. And he played a lot of games. He had to, right? And there's something to be said for that. It wasn't like the game was just crazy, too big for him, right? But I'm not going to sit here and pretend like he he just played out of his mind. But again, they got Corey listed as a safety. Obviously, he's a corner, 60.8. Benny Sapp, 60.4, minimal snaps. So Christian Welch, linebacker, 60.0, one snap, if I'm looking at that correctly. Keyshawn Nixon, 60.0 with 937 snaps, right? He's a guy who's set to hit free agency. You see here, his value is as a kick returner, right? Not a very good grade, 60.0. So he doesn't even meet the threshold either. Keyshawn Banks, edge defender, 59.8. Jonathan Owens, 59.6, just to kind of show you there. Now, he was durable, 927 snaps, much like Keyshawn Nixon. Didn't miss a lot of time. Here's our boy Devontae Wyatt. This is what I'm talking about with Carl Brooks. Devontae Wyatt, 59.6, man. Let's run with Carl Brooks and have Devontae Wyatt fight him for that job, right? I think that's the right move. Here's Quay Walker, 58.5. Another bad year. And people, well, he got tackles. He can tackle. I got you. He's on the field a lot, 973 snaps. He's right in the middle of the defense. He's going to make tackles. He better make tackles. But the 58.5, man, that's an eyesore, dude. You see, I've got the autographed jersey behind me. Like I want Quay to work out because he is a physical monster. But so far, it hasn't come together. Let's hope switching to a 4-3 kind of unlocks him. Brenton Cox Jr. at the edge spot, 58.2, minimal snaps. So Kobe Wooden, some people were convinced Kobe Wooden had a good year. I just didn't see it, 57.6, PFF agrees. Carrington Valentine, 57.5. Guys, that's booty cheeks. And again, rookie, I got it. This whole idea of people getting mad that we're looking at potentially taking a corner in the first round. Your starting corners right now are Jair Alexander, 75.9, Corey Ballantyne, 60.8, Carrington Valentine, 57.5. Like what?
Yeah, it'd be outright neglect to not draft a corner.
Well, at least consider it, right?
Or 3 or maybe even 4 of them.
At least say, hey, if the right guy falls, we're not even allowed to say that. That's just wild to me, man. And I know Cooper DeJean has gotten mocked to the Packers. Now Graham Barton is being mentioned a little more than Cooper. Cooper DeJean, I would be okay with that. I've got him a little lower on my board than most, but that doesn't mean I'm right and they're all wrong, right? He may be a stud. I'm just saying, however Goody's board lines up, for the people who think there's no way you should take a corner in the first round, if Goody's board, if the best player available is in that top tier, let's say there's 4 people and cornerback is one of them, and the other is, let's say, wide receiver, tight end, quarterback. Yeah, I'm going with the corner here. That's just me personally. Isaiah McDuffie, 57.1. Go ahead, Tim. What were you going to say, Bo?
Oh, I was just going to say, I mean, everything you said is true, especially about Valentine and Ballantyne, Val and Bal, as I call them. I feel good about that as a floor, though, with Ja. And it's like you said, how do we get better from there? We could have outright trash corner play. And I don't think that's what we're saying here. We're just kind of underwhelmed by these two, young players, Valentine being a rookie. So, I mean, we'll see what happens, but it's like you said, Clayton, bringing in talent to challenge guys at their position. Cause let's be honest. I mean, it's Valentine's job to lose. At the end of the day, right? So that can only happen if you've got competition at camp. So I fully expect some corners to be drafted or signed in free agency.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head there. We're not saying cut these guys, but you bring in competition and you're going to get the best out of them. Carrington may soar to, he may be better than Ja, like in the right situation, right? I'm not putting my money on it, but that could be. If you treat this like we've treated Josh Myers now for whatever it has been 2 or 3 years, that we keep saying he's not good, and there's zero competition for him. Like, bring in a couple of undrafted free agents, right, and let them compete. You may go, holy cow, this dude's a better center, and now you can try to move Josh Myers around, or God forbid you put him on the bench. Like, this isn't a personal attack on Josh Myers. Like, how many years are we going to continue to do this and have people go, well, he's a good pass blocker? This year, his pass blocking went down significantly, right? So they can no longer say that. I don't know. It's just something from a roster eval standpoint. You want to, the goal is, like I said, to take these weak spots and try to make them strengths. That's the goal. Isaiah McDuffie, 57.1. Eric Wilson, 56.5, although we love him on special teams, love the hustle, all that good stuff. Eric Stokes, this is another one. Only 110 snaps, obviously. Keep in mind, before he got hurt last year or the year before 2022, he was grading out in the 50s as well. So it's not like, oh, well, this is just the injury. It could very well be the injury, and he still hasn't had time to completely rebound. But 51.5 is just, whew, that's a hard one to see. Anthony Johnson Jr., I was really excited about Anthony Johnson Jr. Underwhelming, 334 snaps, 47.9. Not that good, bub. Zane Anderson, only 14 snaps, I think, 29.8. So basically a quick recap of your defense. Going starting defense all the way down the line. Defensive end, Rashawn Gary, 79. Defensive tackle, Kenny Clark, 70. Defensive tackle, Carl Brooks, 69. Opposite defensive end, Preston Smith, 70. Mike linebacker, I would put Devondre Campbell as the mock right now, 65.1. Sam backer would be Quay Walker, 58.5. Will Isaiah McDuffie, 57.1. Both of those in the 50s is just whew. Cornerback, Jair Alexander, 75.9. Nickelback, Keyshawn Nixon, 60.0. Corey Ballantyne, 60.8. Carrington Valentine, 57.5. Okay, so you could use a slot corner and an outside corner, right? Safety, Anthony Johnson Jr., 47.9. And then other safety, the only one on the roster that I can think of that's probably coming back, and it's only for special teams, would be Zane Anderson, 29.8 when he was on the field, minimal snaps. So when you look at it from positions of tier 1 importance, quarterback and left tackle, they both are shaded in the green because they broke the 65 threshold, although we know left tackle, 66.3 isn't blowing 65 out of the water, right? If Bach doesn't come back, then Rasheed Walker, yes, he can handle the starting left tackle position. But if the best player on the board is a left tackle and you think you can significantly upgrade left tackle, and you bring him in and maybe you try to slide Rasheed Walker around a little bit and let him compete at some other positions. If not, you got a nice floor there. I feel good about left tackle. What I'm saying is it's such an important position that if the right player falls, it makes sense to take him. But if Goody says, nope, Rasheed's our guy moving forward, he graded high enough for me to be okay. I'm all right with that. Tier 2 on offense, center, Josh Myers, 54.7. Got to get better there. Got to get better. Tier 1 on defense, defensive end and defensive tackle, we're set. We're good. Rashawn Gary, Kenny Clark, Carl Brooks, Preston Smith, they all meet that 65 threshold. We're good there. Mike is your tier 2 position. Devondre Campbell, 65, technically meets it, but you're going to have 2 linebackers on the field at the same time. That's why I'm thinking you got to try to upgrade at least one of those linebacker positions, right? So your nickel is stronger. It gives Quay some competition. You got to get better in the middle there for sure. Safety is the other tier 2 position. Anthony Johnson Jr., 47.9. Safety, when you look at this team, safety is the top need in this draft, man. We've got to fix that safety position, Bob.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that can be through a combination of draft picks and a free agent signing.
Yeah, definitely. So that's your PFF, kind of your quick eval. Let's go to the chat real quick. I know we had a couple people commenting. Eric Sutherland says Myers and Newman would look great in Viking purple. Come on, Eric. Go easy on the guys. It's just a matter of time before the Vikings sign somebody that was with the Packers. Let's be honest, right? So in due time, that will happen, my friend. I promise you. Maybe not those specific players. Paul Robertson says, purple looks amazing on you, Eric. There you go. Got our first shots of the morning. Thrown across the bow there.
You sure about that?
All right, so with that being said, let's move that tab to the side. I'm going to try to share the screen again here. And now let's key in on free agents, Tim. What time is it? 34-minute mark. We're good, ain't we?
We got it.
All right. Let's go to free agent tracker according to SpoTrack. And again, this is getting updated quite often. Okay. I apologize for the ads. There's nothing I can do about it. There's no way to subscribe to this and get rid of those ads, or else I would gladly pay the money. But here are your top free agents. Can you read those okay, Tim?
Yeah, Kirk Cousins and Ryan Tannehill are your top free agents.
Hey, what did we say, Tim? What did we say? Every April, there's 2 different drafts, right? There's quarterback draft, and then there's every other position draft. And the quarterback draft's treated a little bit different than everything else. Quarterback's the same way. Someone will overpay for these guys, Tim. It's coming. It's coming. So they've got it listed by their average value, okay? So your annual average value, I think, is what that stands for. So this is what they made last year, or their last contract average, okay? So that's how this is sorted, all right? So Kirk Cousins, $35 million. Tannehill, $29.5 million. I don't think anybody's going to pay Tannehill that, but again, this is based off their last contract. Leonard Williams, defensive end, okay, and I think he can play defensive tackle too. 29 years old, $21 million on his, okay, and we can look at the true market value of any of these guys. Chris Jones is set to be a free agent, to the best of my knowledge. He's 29 years old, $19.5 million has been his average. Now, we know he held out last year, so that number, he's going to want to get paid more than that, even though he's flirting with 30 years old. Daniil Hunter, outside linebacker from Minnesota, he's basically an edge defender, $17 million. J.C. Jackson, cornerback out of New England, $16.5 million. Emmanuel Ogbah, defensive end, edge defender from Miami, $16.3 million. Odell Beckham Jr., $15 million. Carl Lawson, $15 million. Buda Baker, $14.7. That's someone who might be a free agent here as far as this free agent cycle. Eddie Jackson, free safety, 14.6. I just want you guys to get kind of familiar with some of these numbers that these guys have averaged, like Derrick Henry. PFF put a tweet out saying, should the Packers sign Derrick Henry? We all went, no. $12.5 million. I think they had him valued at 10 per currently. So just a couple guys to look at here, according to Spotrac. Now, if we hop over to the free agent tracker for PFF, I'm going to bring that up on the screen real quick. I just wanted to flash those numbers real quick, and we'll get into, all right, let's look at real eval here. What will we be interested in as far as free agents? So we kind of did this earlier in the offseason. That's why it's important to revisit it now. Let me slide this over, get that out of the way. Bang. Actually, we'll go ahead and get that down. And they should have some numbers attached here too. Can you see these guys okay, Tim?
Yep.
All right, this is a little bit larger, so I'll zoom out a little bit. So according to all positions, right, and why don't let's do like the top 10 of all positions, and then we'll go back and look at some of these needs we identified, okay? So Chris Jones, defensive lineman, he's ranked as the top free agent. Now, will he be franchised? We'll see. I don't know if they mentioned that or not. They actually franchised Snead, didn't they? Yeah. So Chris Jones cannot get franchised. It doesn't mean they won't work out a deal, but Tim, he's been a stud, man. There's no doubt about it. He's the reason, one of the big reasons that defense has been good in Kansas City. 83.4, 92.3, 88.1. His projected contract is 4 years, $30 million, okay, with $80 million guaranteed and $120 million total. Number 2, Kirk Cousins. The projected contract is 2 years, $40 million per year with $60 million of it guaranteed. Look at his PFF grade, Tim. 88.2, 79.3. Last year he got hurt, only 513 snaps, but 86.1 was his PFF grade. Still can wing that thing around a little bit before he tore the Achilles there, man. 35 years old. If a team needs a quarterback now, right, they sign him. Essentially what that means with the $60 million guaranteed is he'll be, let's say you just evenly, you don't put any voidable years on. This year he'd be $40 million on the cap. If you cut him last year, you could free up $20 million. Or I'm sorry, if you cut him next year, you can free up $20 million. Does that make sense? So you get the $40 million guaranteed up front, and then the $20 million next year, you can kind of split that cap hit up. So Josh Allen, edge defender, I believe is the position he plays, if I remember correctly. It doesn't, edge. He is 26 years old. They're saying franchise tag here, so he probably won't be on the market, but he's due. They're saying it's going to be a 1 year, $24 million deal. Stud, 78.5, 84.7, 89.5. T. Higgins just got franchise tag, right? 21.8 is the franchise tag number on wide receiver right now in the NFL. I think they're overpaying for him personally. That's just me. 83.4, 78.4, 72.1. It goes down every year, it seems like. Now, I know he's playing with a backup quarterback last year for the most part, but franchise tag got slapped on Brian Burns. So he's going to get $24 million there in Carolina, I believe it is. And then you got Justin Matabuke, I think is how you say it.
Who?
Exactly. Defensive lineman, 26 years old, projected contract, 4 years, $23 million. Obviously, we don't need a defensive lineman. I just wanted you guys to see some of these. This guy here, Christian Wilkins. I think it was announced either last night or this morning that Christian Wilkins will hit free agency. He's going to test free agency, okay? So he's a interior defensive lineman that played in Miami, 28 years old. His projected contract is 4 years, $25 million per. PFF grades were 83.3, 82.2, and dipped significantly last year at 71.8. Probably still going to get a decent paycheck. He may still return to Miami. They may let him test the market. It might not be as high as he's thinking, but they're definitely not franchise tagging him. Here's Antoine Winfield. I'm expecting that franchise tag to be slapped on him. That would be $17.1 million. Safety down there in Tampa Bay. So now, Tim, let's key in on these positions. Let's start with center and right guard. That good with you, man?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's go center. I think we can click multiples. Yeah, center and guard. Let's see who the top free agents available are. You guys know before we came up with Greg Von Roten, right? Now, keep in mind, some people may have been cut now. Right off the bat, Kevin Dotson from the LA Rams, okay? Said he was traded from the Steelers to the Rams this offseason. Played really, really well. Guys, you're not going to find an offense more like ours than the Rams, okay? Now, I'm not suggesting we should go give Kevin Dotson this kind of money. He's projected to have 4 years, $17.2 million per year with 41 guaranteed. So PFF grades those 64.5, 65.4, 84.4, 27 years old.
Yeah.
To me, guard is just not that important, Tim, to put that kind of money into it unless it's your blindside guard, in which Elton Jenkins, you're paying that kind of money. I think they went in paying Elton that kind of money, thinking if he has to play left tackle, that's great value there. But what do you think about Kevin Dodd? Would you be willing to pay 17.2 for a right guard, man?
In theory, yeah. But here's the thing: he's 27. He'll be 28. This year. You're basically saying that's your dude for the foreseeable future with that kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And the way that I look at this and how we do contracts, I talk about how when you sign someone to a 4-year deal, it's really just a 3-year deal. When you sign someone to a 3-year deal, it's really just a 1 to 2 year deal. And what I mean by that is look at the guaranteed money. If you sign him to a 4-year, let's just call it $70 million. It says $69 million. 4-year, $70 million deal. Okay. He's 27 years old. That means 28, 29, 30, 31 is when his contract would expire, right? Now, the $41 million guaranteed is what you need to key in on. If he comes out and he plays good, his 28 year, right? And then he's 29 and he plays well, right? Now you've got 2 years left, okay? Essentially what you're going to be doing is eating probably $10 million in cap on, if it's just an evenly balanced and it's not even front loaded, you'd be eating $10 million in cap penalty those last 2 years if you just cut him outright. But what does it free up, right? You're going to free up roughly $14 million. So that's what I mean by that. It's ideal in my situation, in my opinion, that you get into a situation, a scenario where you can cut bait that last year if you need to, right? So If he was 26, I'd be cool with a 4-year deal. But him being 27, flirting with 28, it's kind of like probably going to be eating a little more cap if he hits that wall at 30.
And anyone in that range that we talk about they got to come in and they got to make a difference. This can't be some kind of experiment. We got to know, paying a guy like that and bringing him in, he's going to produce.
Bingo. Next is Robert Hunt. He's the 28th best free agent to hit the market here. He's coming from Miami, 27 years old, same age. His PFF grades were 67.4, 72.3, 76.4. Projected contract, 4 years, $17.5 million. So pretty much the same exact scenario there.
Lower snap counts last year. I wonder if he had injury.
Let's see here. It says, it came as a bit of a surprise that Hunt was not the young Dolphins offensive lineman agreeing to terms to an extension before the season concluded, but it could also be a signal that he knows he can command a strong contract in the open market with a large sample size of good play. The 6'6", 335-pound Hunt got his NFL start at tackle, so he has played tackle, lining up on either side in his rookie season and holding up admirably. He found a home for the past 3 seasons at right guard and was a great fit in the team's zone rushing attack under head coach Mike McDaniel.
Interesting there.
You're not going to find a better fit. You got versatility. He played right guard here recently, which we need to start in right guard. It's just that money, man. You know,
we do a little zone rushing ourselves.
Just a touch.
Just a tad.
Next is Kevin Zeitler, 33 years old. I'm not interested, Tim, although it is 2 years, $7.5 million per, $9 million guaranteed. Essentially what that means is you're on the hook for $9 million. If you played for 1 year and then you cut him next year, you probably have about $3 million in cap penalty if you front loaded that bonus. But
I'm against anybody north of 30 years old on our offensive line.
You just ask him for trouble, right?
Yep.
Now here's Connor Williams. This is one we talked about before, but he's coming off of that knee injury, right? if we remember correctly. I think, this was the ACL. He tore it in week 14. So that's why his value is way down. His PFF grades are phenomenal. 75.2, 78.4, 86.5. Again, he played center. This would be the ideal scenario hey, if you're going to go in free agency and fill Josh Myers' role, this is it right here, right? 3 years, $7.5 million. The problem is the ACL. He's not going to be available to at least halfway through the season. So that's why that money is cut in half. He'd probably be going for roughly $15 million if it wasn't for that, Tim. But,
oh yeah, I mean, and maybe in theory you could bring a guy like that in because you're going to get the discount because of the injury. But then you've got, you're going to have to retain Myers and start him, and then try and get a guy like Williams, up to speed. And if you're going to all of a sudden plug him into that starting role, I just don't know how that would work. I mean, I guess seeing that he started in Dallas at left guard, so he's got some experience there, not just as a center. We always talked about in a pinch, you could kick Big E out to left tackle if we needed to. And having a guy like Williams who could probably play left guard in a pinch is a good look. But yeah, man, that late season injury, week 14, it's going to be a while before he'll be back.
And again, he had his best season, 86.5. He was the second highest graded center in the league, but only 497 snaps because of that.
Doesn't it always seem like that with these players? They're having, I don't care what team you have a career year, you're getting off on a good foot, and then bam, something happens.
Somebody is gonna pay this money, and they're gonna invest in Connor Williams. I would be okay if the Packers did it. Let's say Bach doesn't come back, you free up that $20 million, and you give him this contract here, and he's pretty much you're putting him on IR for the first half of the season, maybe even 3/4 of the season. But then if he comes back and he's fully healthy, and you've got him on a 3 year, $7.5 million per, and you've got a top 5 center in the game, I can understand the argument there. I'm a little hesitant, but I can understand the argument just because the price, like you said, it's a really good deal. So, Andre James, center from Vegas, the Vegas Raiders, 26 years old, right there in that spot, as far as that goes. 3 years, $9 million per, only $15 million guaranteed. Not bad. Trying to make sure there was, his snap count looked decent. He had his PFF grade was 64.8, 62.8, and then jumped to a 74.6. Pretty solid, man. Pretty solid. Not the best center. That's a top 10 center right there, according to PFF. Not a bad price tag on him. It looks like he's healthy. I'm looking here, just kind of, I don't see anything about injuries. So, I wouldn't be completely opposed to that either if you wanted to upgrade the center position with Andre James. Let's see here. Lloyd Cushenberry, 58th best free agent. A center, 26 years old, right there in that ballpark. 64.2, 56.2, 73.2. A little bit too inconsistent for me, Tim, in that regard. Played a lot of snaps last year, though, 1,070. Again, his contract is projected at 4 years, $12.5 million. So that's how that one sits. Dalton Reisner from Minnesota, 28 years old, probably a little too old. Yeah, PFF grade 68.5, 61.1, 57.1. I'm not interested in that cat. Yeah.
Woof.
Woof. Ezra Cleveland, 25 years old, plenty young enough, right? Played for Jacksonville last year. He is a guard, 68.6, 73.4, 59.5. Just too inconsistent for me there. It looked like the snap count went down a bit, probably battled some injuries too. Aaron Brewer, 77th ranked free agent, 57.9, 59.9, 71.6 while he was at Tennessee, 26 years old. His salary's looking like 3 years, $6.6 million, $12 million guaranteed. That wouldn't be a bad investment there. If you looked at the tape and said, yeah, that's our guy, right? I don't know. I don't think they run a zone scheme down there. Actually, Brewer belongs. Look at here. Brewer belongs in a zone rushing scheme where he can use his quick first step.
Yeah, but I'm also reading that he needs to add good weight both to his lower half and through his shoulders because he's prone to bigger rushers bullying him. So that's something to note. Can't have your center getting pancaked every play.
Yeah, exactly. Damian Lewis, no thank you, 59.6. There's our boy John Runyon.
Hey, JRJ.
I hope he gets every dime of this, man. I hope he gets every dime of this 3 years, $6 million. I really do. I think he's a great dude. It's just it didn't work out, man. 64.6, 62.6, 56.5. Let's see here. Tyler Biadasz from Dallas, 3 years, $7 million per. 65.1, 60.5, 69.2. Not horrible there. Pretty decent as far as the price too. Jonah Jackson from Detroit, guard, 27 years old, 69.3, 66.1, 61.0. Coleman Shelton, ranked 97th amongst free agents, not 28 years old. PFF grade was 59, 58, and 66. John Simpson from Baltimore, 53, 59, 56. No, thank you. Graham Glasgow, 31 years old, a little too long in the tooth for me. Here's our Greg Von Roten, 34 years old. We talked about this one, Tim. This is one we kind of like for a 1 year patch up, right? 1 year, 2.7 million, only 1.7 guaranteed, but 34 years old, obviously. This is a guy that Packers brung in many years ago. I think he got his start in the league with the Green Bay Packers. PFF grades the last 3 years, 68.1, 57.6, and a 75.3. He was the seventh highest graded guard. Put that in perspective. Elton Jenkins graded out a 63.8. Yeah. So he was 12 points better, 11 and some change, 11 points better than Elton Jenkins last year. Now, we know Elton was banged up, but just keep that in mind. Sean Ryan is going to be our starting right guard if we did nothing today. His grade is a 49.3 for 2.7.
Well, yeah, that makes Van Roten look really good then. Like
for 47 or for 2.7 million, yeah. I'd be on this, man. And he's got some ties. And you're going, Clayton, that was a long time ago he played in Green Bay. I know, but remember what we said when they attack free agency. What these guys do, what the front office do, is they go back and they look at their draft. They look at their draft information. They go, okay, who do we have high grades on? Obviously, it was high enough for them to bring him in as whether it was an undrafted free agent or a late round pick. I'm telling you, man, this is a guy, if he doesn't get a bunch of offers, don't be surprised, man, if you hear Green Bay come a call in there. So,
there's a guy in the top 10 in his position in the league. Yeah. Say what you want. I mean, that snap count and those numbers. And then, the nice thing about a 1 year deal is, if you crap the bed with them, we're out. We're not committed long-term to an old aging player.
Exactly. Look at Feliciano here. This is interesting too, man. So you're seeing more and more names popping up now since, there's cuts being made and all this stuff, right? As we get closer to free agency. He was the fifth highest graded guard, 79.8. He's 32 years old, 1 year, $2 million. Dude, to patch up right guard for 1 year, and maybe you take some late round picks and see if you can hit on another Zach Tom or someone like that, right? Later. This makes all the sense in the world right here to kind of fix right guard in a pinch. I know he's old and he could hit the wall. I got you, but you're only on the hook for $2 million. He played in San Francisco, obviously a zone scheme primarily. That's another player to keep in mind. So essentially, as we were looking at offensive line here, trying to fix center and right guard for this offense, which in my opinion is the only thing that needs fixed here, unless you have a great left tackle fall to you. Those are the guys that come to mind. I'm going to put Connor Williams on the list here, Tim. Just the fact that, hey, it's an investment for the future, and he can be your center for the next 2 or 3 years. I'm okay with exploring it, $7.5 million per. I'm going to put him here just as a maybe, Connor Williams.
Yeah, and, maybe as in, Bach's gone. That's, I don't think there's a scenario if Bakhtiari's on this team this year that we bring Connor Williams in, right?
Right, exactly. No, absolutely. Like, if Bach's on the team, it's going to mean he's going to have to take a pay cut. And that's probably what they're trying to iron out. I hate to say it, but I'm expecting them to cut him. I hope I'm surprised. We look up and go, oh, man, they got it worked out. Because if you got him at left tackle and Rasheed Walker is your swing tackle, if it depends on how much money you save, Tim, right? The cap went up. You're already in a decent position. If Bach is willing to take a cut that's going to free up roughly $10 million in cap and you can guarantee some money for him, right? And he is healthy. Notice how it's if and
right. A lot of if and when and then, but yeah.
For one of
what about the scenario of let's say he's healthy, he's playing left tackle, you kick Rasheed over to right tackle, and you put Zach Tom as your starting center.
I would not be opposed to that at all, dude. You kidding me?
I mean, Jenkins can play center too. I mean, I'd probably go with Tom if we're going to make an adjustment. I feel like Zach Tom is probably the one guy on our offense that could play anywhere on that line that you ask him.
And you're doing it. You're having these conversations of potentially making a move like that at the right time. You do that going into the off season, so they have a full training camp to come out. When you get halfway through the season, now it's, well, why don't we move Tom to see? You can't now because now a lot of shuffling takes place, right? And these guys they're set into their respective positions. So like, this is the time to make those type of moves if you're going to. And again, I don't think this is our top priority on the team. I think defense has a lot more holes than offense. But if you were to identify the holes on offense, it's definitely center and right guard. If you get Connor Williams at $7.5 million, put him on IR until he's healthy from the ACL. It's an investment for the future in the second half of the season, at least the third quarter or the fourth quarter of the season. And you roll with Myers for the first part, and you bring in a Von Roten or a Feliciano for pennies on the dollar to plug into right guard. You've now taken those two positions, and technically that would be your best right guard. Whether you bring in Von Roten or Feliciano, you understand they both graded out significantly higher than Elton Jenkins at left guard. I'm not saying they should start at left guard. I'm just saying you now take a weak spot and you flipped it to a strength. And again, we're going to have the draft to work too, but free agency kicks off here in 6 days. So we're trying to get everybody primed and ready. Okay, who are the free agents that are looking like they're going to be available? And then you go into the fourth quarter of the season. Connor Williams is good. Pop him off IR. He's your starting center for the next 2 to 3 years. You let Myers go in the offseason and you're off and running. I kind of like that rebuild there. Just something to keep in mind. I'm going to attach these numbers too. 7.5. I think Von Roten was 2.7. And Feliciano was $2 million even. All right, cool. All right. We were going to get into defense. We'll do that tonight, Tim, if that's cool with you, buddy. This was fun.
Perfect.
Yeah, we covered a lot of ground here, dude. I really like what we did. Hopefully you guys understand at least where we're coming from with the PFF grades and how these guys graded out. Okay, here's what we're thinking, identifying. And this is just starting, right? This is just the starting lineup. Obviously, you can build through the draft with the backups. You can go grab backups in free agency too, right? We're just keying in on, all right, who are our starting 11 coming out of the gate? Feel good about wide receiver. Feel good about where the tight end room is. Obviously, quarterback, we're good. Aaron Jones, I think they'll get that done. I think Aaron Jones will be back, and if he is, that's going to help that running game tremendously. I still think that they're going to be pretty aggressive with running back in the draft. Some people were saying Antonio Gibson. I heard his name tossed around a lot yesterday, Tim, as far as a running back in free agency. I want to pull him up real quick, and then we'll get out of here. Let me just hit this real quick because I hadn't had a chance to do this. I was never really sold on Antonio Gibson, but I believe he played in Washington. If we were to look at the free agent running backs real quick, I just want to see where he ranks here, man, because that really came out of left field for me. Like, why are we so set on Antonio Gibson? Maybe I look at this and he had a great year. Tony Pollard's appealing to me. I'll be honest with you there. That's a dude who's got some high upside, still 26 years old. Yeah, he's way down the list, ain't he? There's Dylan.
Yep.
So Dylan is ranked as the 133rd best free agent. Where is Antonio Gibson?
There he is.
194. His PFF grade was a 66.6. So
yeah, no. Hard pass. Go to the draft for a running back.
I respectfully disagree there. I would love to hear the argument for it, like what people seen. I mean, 2022, 76.3 is decent, but
yeah,
when you compare him to A.J. Dillon, and it doesn't have a projected contract, obviously, because the market's so haywire. But no. I think I would rather look at A.J. Dillon's numbers, 86.2, 81.4, 75.7, and then look at Antonio Gibson, 63.3, 76.3, 66.6.
Look at the snap counts too.
Yeah.
AJ, other than the, with the thumb and the neck and stuff towards the end of the year, AJ was, played more football.
Yeah.
Than Gibson.
Yeah. To me, it seems like the best scenario outside of the draft. Let AJ test the market. And if he comes back under $3 million, let's give it to him.
We sign him. Yeah, absolutely. I
would love to see that happen. He doesn't seem like he's panicking. I follow him and his wife on IG, and they seem like they're pretty,
Yep.
They don't seem like, oh, no. I think there's still a significant chance that he ends up in Green Bay after free agency. So, all right, man, good deal. We did this, right at the hour mark. Tim, you got anything else, Bo?
No, just excited to go over the defense tonight because that's the meat and potatoes of the Green Bay Packers. That is the determining factor of how far this team's going to go. I really believe that. I think we'll plug and play, and we'll do what we have to do on our offensive line to get it done. I mean, we got it done for the most part last year, even with the personnel that we had. So a couple improvements on the O-line. I think we're good to go there. So it'll be fun to break down this defense and figure out how we're going to fill, the holes that we have all over that defense, really, but primarily in the secondary. So it'll be fun to talk about tonight.
Definitely. And we've run a ton of mock drafts up to this point. We wanted to do pre-combine mock drafts to show you guys here's how easy it is to fill these positions, how hard it is to fill these positions. That's going to determine how aggressive you are in free agency to try to get some of these holes filled. Who knows, man? Goody may look up at Myers and Ryan and go, I like what we got. That could be the case. We don't know what his grades are, right?
Right.
But I feel really confident in what PFF has here because just based off of I watched every snap this year, some cases more than 3 times, but every snap at least 3 times this season. And I look at these PFF grades and I feel like this is pretty much what I've seen. You know, Elton Jenkins struggled at times, but he was still, still solid pass blocker. I don't know if he even allowed a single sack all year. In the run game, he wasn't comfortable. You guys know, well documented early in the season, I was saying I feel like things are too complex. You're trying to do too much with the sifting, with the pulling. Let's just focus on zone and build off that. It came back around those last 3 games of the season. The sift was back, right? You let that charge back up.
A lot of pin and pull down the stretch too.
Yes, and it worked, right? Because you weren't showing it every play there in the middle of the season. It kind of built back up. Myers, I think he struggled. Sean Ryan, obviously, John Runyon Jr., it was just a turnstile. How many times on Chalk Talk, Tim, did we see him just get completely flipped around, him being John Runyon? So, I think these line up pretty well. So we got us a couple free agents identified that we would like to see them maybe be aggressive towards. And I'm sure there'll be some people that might get mentioned with the Packers name that we go and look at and go, hey, that makes sense. That makes sense, right? So there you go, man. So with that being said, we'll get into defense tonight. We got a lot more holes to fill on defense, at least from a PFF standpoint. Again, it's not everything. It's just another tool we can use. If you guys have got a better metric system, send it my way. I'd love to see it. But I think it's a good tool that we can kind of lean on. But I appreciate everybody hanging out in the chat. I know we wasn't as active with the chat today, but we're trying to get through these exercises before free agency starts so we can compile a list of our free agents that we go, hey, I really like these guys. Let's see if the Packers go after them. So hopefully you guys understand that. Again, I want to give a special shout out to Ticket King. Appreciate them sponsoring the show. And you guys go ahead, get over there on their website, get registered as a customer. So when the Packer tickets drop there or when the schedule drops in May and those tickets start flooding into their office, you guys can get you some deals on some Packer tickets. So
theticketking.com. Theticketking.com.
The is important. Very important. So, all right. There you go. Guys, we will see you tonight for PTA Live. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us. For those of you listening on the pod, thank you for making us a part of your day. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world. And go Pack, go.